One of my favorite blog posts of yours is about the concept of simultaneous fat loss and muscle gain. Is it
Mhm.
possible to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time?
Yes, absolutely. There is a lot of research that shows it is possible. Now, it gets more difficult as you get more muscular. Like the more muscular you are, the more difficult it gets to continue building muscle in general, but especially energy deficit. There was a really good meta-analysis that showed that you can essentially plot the decrease in muscle growth that you get based on the energy deficit. And especially beyond a deficit of about 500 calories, they found that it became very difficult to continue building muscle. But if your deficit's not too large, you're not super advanced, then you can still build muscle in energy deficit. And physiologically, that's also extremely, there's no reason why that wouldn't be possible. If you think of it, for example, if you couldn't build lean tissue mass when you were in energy deficit, what would happen when you had a surgery in the hospital and they didn't give you enough food? Like you had open heart surgery, for example, like your heart literally wouldn't recover because your heart would be like, no, sorry, I'm in energy deficit. Clearly that doesn't work. And it's because every single tissue in the body, whether it's the heart, the muscle group, the biceps, the quads, they are all regulated independently. So you can have positive energy balance or nitrogen balance or protein balance in one tissue and have it negative in the other tissue. In fact, while we're speaking, at any tissue in our body, there is a certain state of energy balance and protein balance, and they are somewhat independent of each other. So there was also a recent study, for example, that found that if you only train certain body parts, then those will grow, and then other body parts that you don't train will lose size, which is pretty obvious, but it illustrates the point that every tissue is regulated independently.
Wow, very interesting. And I don't know how close or far I am from my genetic potential in terms of muscle growth, but what would you say are the levers that might help encourage muscle growth while in a calorie deficit? You mentioned already, making sure that your calorie deficit is relatively slight, but is there anything else that might help tilt the scale in favor of muscle growth while in that calorie deficit?
Mm-hmm. I have a calculator actually on my website, which gives you the best evidence-based guess you have as to what your maximum muscular potential is. But anything that makes it easier to build muscle, anything that helps with muscle growth in general, will also help with muscle growth in energy deficit. And that is pretty much everything. So the basics are strength training, doing in particular your strength training volume, like up to a point, more is better. And your protein intake, you need to get enough protein. Then the size of the energy deficit is very important. If you go beyond a certain energy deficit, it becomes very, very difficult. So typically, relatively slow cutting, especially if you're already lean, is better for body recomposition than trying to crash diet your way to a six-pack. That doesn't work. You're going to lose muscle mass, or at best, you're going to just maintain muscle mass, whereas you could maybe be recomping still, which is going to give you a lot better long-term outcome. Because fat loss is, compared to muscle growth, fat loss is relatively easy. Like you can lose quite some fat in a month, but no matter what you do, it's going to be very difficult to build more than, say, 1 kilo, 2 pounds of muscle in a month. Like even for a beginner, more than that is very difficult without anabolic steroids, that is.
How does one know how close or far they are from their genetic potential? It's super interesting that you have a calculator on your website. I haven't seen it, but is there anything you could share?
Basically, it looks at your level of muscle mass currently. You need some estimate of your body fat level, and typically it's better when you're leaner. And then it compares it to the fat-free mass. It uses a calculation for your fat-free mass index, which is like BMI, but for muscle mass. And it compares that to natural bodybuilders that we pretty much knew for sure were natural. And we have a sample size of that, and then it corrects for like the measurement error. And you can basically say, okay, so this is based on your stats, based on your wrist circumference, your ankle circumference, which is kind of like the real estate that your body has. Like the bigger your joints, the bigger your frame size, the more muscle you can build around it. It's like a coat rack. Like if you have very big hangers, you can hang more clothes around it. So you have that kind of as the baseline, and then we know, well, this is pretty much the upper limit. So we can get like an estimate of percentage-wise where you are. Now it's always going to be an estimate. We can't divine exactly for you what the number is going to be, but we can make an educated guess.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.